This is the Tabernacle podcast with Josh and Laura Boulis and me, John Vermilio. What's up?
Mm-hmm.
What's up, guys?
Not much.
Not much?
Not much, but all
You
at the same
had
time.
much to prepare your first line,
much.
and you gave us a not much. Okay, I'm going to try it again. Laura, what's up?
It's springtime, so we're busy and, man, I don't know.
There's a lot going on.
So
There's a
much.
lot going on.
Not much
Okay.
is the easy answer.
The easy answer is that Josh and Laura's children are at Dad's house an hour and a half away.
Mhm.
Hot date.
So it's a hot date. It's an hour and a half of silence in the car. Probably not.
I think
Not
we
with us
talked
one in the
whole
car.
time.
Oh, okay. Whatever. Yeah. Well, thanks so much for being on the podcast today. Sorry I caught you unawares. But for the podcast family, Josh and Laura are let me rephrase that. Josh is our second newest member of our staff. Josh serves as one of the Cadillac campus pastors, and Laura is his better half. And the reason I said Josh has joined the staff is because what we told you during the whole interview process, we have no expectations that wives are now for our use and abuse as far as ministry goes. But you guys are both a ministry team, and you're part of our ministry family. And so we wanted to do this podcast to play Get to Know You with Josh and Laura, to hear a little bit about your changed life story, how you got into ministry, where you're from. We even want to know how you got married. I want to know who asked who, because we don't know. But inquiring minds want to know. So, Josh, you've been on the podcast before. We were talking about Adam Ray's bear hunting story or something like that. But
Of course.
I had to bring Josh for intelligent questions because I'm the least of the three as far as outdoorsman stuff goes, so whatever. But Laura, let's start with you. Where are you from? Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Clare, Michigan. I was born there, and I grew up in the house that my dad's grandparents had, and then he purchased it from them. And so I'm like one of the lucky people that came home to the house I spent my whole life in, and he's still there. And our kids are there once a week because he's incredible. And
Wow.
they're just getting to live some of the best parts of my childhood memories. So that's been really fun. I don't know. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Super thankful.
Mid-60-year-old guy watching three
Three
kids
kids.
under 6 years old by
Every
himself
week.
for
Wow, that's a man.
yeah.
Yep.
That sounds like a man.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So you grew up in Clare. What kind of was it from a big family, small family?
Just my mom, dad, brother, and I have a younger brother who, he's on the autism spectrum. And so I feel like he just is forever my 12-year-old brother.
Got it.
I quickly regress to middle school Laura when we hang out. It's awesome.
Oh, nice.
He's
Okay.
a riot. He's
Yeah.
so fun.
And was church part of your upbringing?
Yeah. So my mom grew up unchurched. And so when I was 4 years old, she became a Christian and was baptized. And then the church we were going to at the time, she ended up seeking out a different church and found the church that I grew up in, which was a United Brethren church.
Yeah.
And we always joke that they do an incredible job of raising up the foundations for young kids. And so I was super blessed because all of my best friends growing up were all raised together with parents that were all kind of on the same page. And so my foundations were so well laid by adults that were all like in it together. And then my pastor, I think it was his 20 years of pastoring this church, he chose 20 men in the church that were not saved, and my dad was one of them. And so he just made it his mission to walk alongside each of these men until they became a Christian. So I remember as like a preteen, my dad praying to accept Christ. Yeah.
Wow. So were you already a Christian at that time?
Yeah, I was 7. I think it was a Maundy Thursday service at church.
Oh, wow. I forgot about Monday, Thursday.
I just remember sitting
I
in
still
the
don't know what that
background.
means. I've looked it up. I always forget. Is it Monday or Thursday? No, it's Monday, Thursday. Sorry.
Monday.
Yeah. But it was Monday, Thursday. Sorry.
Yeah, I grew up in church, so I know I've heard the gospel message dozens of times by that point, but it was just like the first time, like you're 7, so you're like right at that cusp of I'm a little kid and my mind is starting to
Be your own person.
Yeah. And it was like the first time I heard it and I'm like, oh, that's for me. That's about me. And I mean, as much as you can understand at 7. I think I've had many other, like, especially as we've been in full-time ministry, like you it's like you level up.
Yeah.
So I've had lots of other, encounters with Christ where I felt like I've leveled up, but that was like the moment that. Yeah.
No, that's an interesting expression, to level up. I'm thinking about all the video games that I used to play. I'm talking a long time ago on an Atari. But the ones that I know that my son and my son-in-law play and all that type of thing, you level up, but you can still die, right? It's like, when you get to that next level and then you thought that you were this big thing and
it just means the guns get bigger.
Exactly. The guns get bigger. No, that's good. Now, Josh, are you also from Clare?
Nope. I grew up about an hour south of there, little town called Parrington. It's north of St. John's, south of the Elma, Ithaca area, Carson City, kind of in that little triangle.
When my dad found out what we met in high school.
Yeah.
When my dad found out what high school he went to, he quickly looked it up on the map. But his high school is named after the township. Yeah. And there is also a Fulton, Michigan, which is way down south. So my dad...
He didn't think I was going to last long, but...
because he thought you were super...
Way
it's like 4
farther
hours away, and it's like,
this
is not going to work. And
got it. I thought you were going to say he looked up the high school, and then he came back and said, I hate those guys because of the rivalries. But so Parrington?
Yep.
Yeah, I almost said Paddington, like Paddington,
Parrington,
but whatever. Yeah.
Middleton, Maple Rapids, they're all like 3 little villages that make up the school district.
Right.
So.
And if you blink, you passed all 3.
Yeah, pretty much.
Small town boy.
Mm-hmm.
And did you grow up in church?
Yeah, so I grew up in the same denomination as her. So we were both raised in the UB church. But yeah, they
do a great job with us as kids. So we met when we were in early high school, probably. We both went to our churches sent the kids all to the same church.
You were camp. It was a camp romance.
Camp romance.
So, I was raised in the church. My parents were both, my mom wasn't raised in a Christian home, but my dad was. My dad's whole side of the family, we pretty much were the church.
Yeah. Oh, God.
There was that many people, like that many siblings and cousins and all that were in the church. So it was a pretty...
And they're laying the same foundation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, did you come to faith really young as well, like Laura?
I was probably a little bit older. I think mine was more... I felt like I was a Christian long before I really was. I think mine, when I kind of took it up on, like, personally... it was probably middle school.
Oh, yeah.
Is that Acquire the Fire altar call?
Oh, yeah. Acquire the Fire,
like
man.
every good millennial.
Yeah, so it's like, I don't know. But
why not, man? Yeah. Come on.
So it was super cool. It was just one of those altar calls, which now not like a huge, like, fan of those, if you will.
Yeah.
But it obviously...
But it worked.
It worked then, and it was a cool moment. Like, my older cousin was with me, and like it was so packed out. There were so many kids that came to it that like we were just in the aisles and all this. And then some random lady, don't know her name, I can still picture her face, that kind of thing, prayed with us, and then just sent our life into that trajectory.
Mm-hmm.
Was that in Detroit?
I believe so.
Do you remember if that was in Detroit?
Yeah.
Do you have any idea what year that was?
Oh gosh, now you're gonna make me do math too.
2000, early 2000s.
Yeah, it would have been
like
probably
2003?
2004, 5, probably 5.
Yeah, I'm 99% sure I was at that Acquire the Fire as a youth pastor from the Tabernacle with a group of students that we took there.
That's cool.
And my wife came.
Yeah,
that's wild.
Delirious was the band. They were from England, and they were bouncing.
I used to have
The
their
place was
album.
bouncing.
Yeah,
but no, that's cool. Sorry. So that was the moment. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And what were you into growing up? Like indoor activities?
No,
Legos?
No.
Sorry, that's sarcasm.
I was out in the... So, like, I didn't grow up in the woods, but, like, we were surrounded by cornfields, and our property had this ditch that was, like, 10 foot deep, so I was always down in the jungle, doing just playing in the water that probably shouldn't have been playing in the water, but that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I was always outside, and I had one little... probably year-long stint of video games, and I think it just dawned on me that, like, wow, this takes up a lot of your time, and it just wasn't for me, so I just literally gave it up after that, and I never...
And you became Mr. Outdoorsman.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, but...
Sports?
I was big into sports, sports, I was a
What
3 to
sports?
4 sports. I played football, wrestling, and I threw in track, shot put and disc, but I just did that for the basically spring training for the fall.
Gotcha. It's good to have a wrestler on staff the size of Josh. Thank you.
Yep.
I'm just always looking out for the Tabernacle engagement teams.
Yep.
Yeah. And Laura, what kind of stuff were you into?
I was all of the things. I was nerdy, I was band geek, and I was into sports.
All at the same time?
Oh yeah.
How are you band geek? And that's awesome.
We do it all in the small towns.
What did you play in the band?
Don't ask me that. A flute.
Matt, do we need a flute?
No, we do not. No, Jethro Tull here. Thank you.
Electric flute. Write that down for Victoria. All right, let's go. Sorry. So, what sports were you into?
Volleyball and soccer. Let's clarify at this table how many of us have played sports outside of high school. 2.
Wait. What does that mean?
I played soccer for my tiny community college. It's like
nice. I knew I
get to
loved
pretend
this
like I'm a real athlete.
Well, you get the well done.
I'm married up. I know that.
You married up. Yeah. So, anyways, I just wanted to get the vibe, kind of where you're at. But let's go back to the camp where you met, because that was in the teen years, right?
Yeah, we were
Gotcha.
freshmen.
Yeah. Okay.
Freshman year in high school is when we met, and then we started dating our junior year.
Yep.
Now
Cool.
feel free to correct all of that. Go.
Well,
There we go. Hey, listen, man. It's part of marriage.
this is
So I always got to throw this part in there.
it's true.
Let's go.
You gotta know, like anyone that's been to camp, there's the camp cute boys,
Yeah.
and then they always have their little chubby
Awkward.
bestie that follows them around.
Yeah.
Chubby bestie.
Ah.
His brother was this is gonna give Matt a big head if he listens to this.
He was the heartthrob?
Oh,
of
absolutely.
camp?
But my
Wait,
friend
Josh's brother Matt was the heartthrob. Got it.
my friend had the crush on Matt, so girl code couldn't also have a crush on Matt. And then we went home and came back the next summer, and then we had chiseled jawline, farm boy, tough
Wasn't
Josh,
that
and I was
awkward,
like,
chubby little freshman
"Excuse you,
anymore."
sir."
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So this was year after year. Every summer camp.
Yeah,
was it?
you started in third
Yeah, I started
grade.
going into third grade, and I went all the way. Never
I
missed
was
a
in,
year all the way
fifth.
through.
Which
out of
camp
high
is
school.
this? Just out of
Camp Living
Oh,
Waters.
so it is Camp Living Waters.
So-
Got it.
Yeah, there'll be more later that we'll
Yeah.
get into with that.
More of that.
That's a huge part of our
Yeah.
A lot of
huge
our
part of
heart
our
is there.
story. Yep.
So that's where you met, and then you started dating your junior year, even though you lived an hour and a half or an hour away.
Hour away. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, his sister is a year younger, and I was in her cabin, so she and I were friends. We're super close now, but then we just kind of tolerated each other and had fun and laughed a lot. But she played volleyball, and I played volleyball, and we ended up at the same tournament.
Which never really happened because your
No, 'cause
school
we're
was
far.
still. I mean, it was a small school, but mine was even smaller.
Right,
But somehow they were in the same
same
tournament.
place at the same time. So this is gonna blow your mind. She texts her brother, and he got down out of his tree stand.
I did.
That's you?
And that was the first few years that I was really getting into bow hunting. And she texted me, "Hey, Laura from camp is here." And I'm like, "Well, I'm hunting." And she's like, "Well, you should come over." And so I'm like, "All right." So it was always fun. We like to see people. It was.
Yeah.
I mean, camp is such a small world, but also you're coming from all over the state.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, it'd be fun to see her. And so I got down on the stand. I actually made a buddy of mine drive me back to my car. We were actually hunting, I don't know, probably 5 miles from the school,
where I was
but
at.
we drove in his car. So
Yeah.
we went back to his house, got in my car, and I drove back. And as I'm walking up to the school, my sister's team is walking out of, because they,
God alone.
Yeah.
so they were walking out as I'm walking in. And then, so I talked to them and talked to my parents a little bit. And then I stuck around there the whole day,
Stuck around
hanging out with all the people.
in the middle of my volleyball team,
Yeah.
flirting shamelessly with all of them.
Oh, why not? Let's go.
As my dad
Let's go.
looks
They're-
down.
Yeah, sitting
Yeah.
there staring
Mean
down,
mug.
Yeah.
staring down at me.
So
He
that's
said
when
that
the
never.
dating began.
Shortly after that.
shortly
Yeah.
after that.
Yeah, that
So
in
it was
September.
did you guys see each other a lot, or was it was long distance?
Yeah.
Those are the best dating things, because I'm a
Mhm.
dad of 4 daughters. I like those.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
good that you're 2 hours away.
Yeah.
That's how it should be.
Yeah.
Got to make an effort.
Yeah,
Sorry,
we're-
that was just in case anyone was listening.
Uh-huh.
But keep going. Yeah.
No, it was good. I mean, it was definitely, there's challenges, and something that we always say to people, and even the people that know us from our high school days was if we went to the same school, we probably wouldn't
Absolutely
have
not.
been in the same crowds, but also just
Mm.
mainly probably who I was in high school. Probably wouldn't have been able to, she probably wouldn't have liked me.
Gotcha.
I can confirm.
Yeah.
But yeah, it worked out. I mean, we saw each other fairly regularly. I mean, once after her dad realized that I wasn't going away for a while, it started getting easier, but I did a lot of the traveling.
My dad likes him more than he likes me. It's fine.
Hey, that's a good problem to have. Yeah. So what happens next? What happens after high school? You mentioned community college.
Yeah. Well, my mom was a college professor, and
a preschool teacher.
And yeah, she was wild.
2 days a week she was dealing with
Psychology
preschool.
101 for college, and then early childhood is what she had her master's in, so she was just back and forth all week long. But my parents were pretty passionate about me doing college, and then it got us to see each other more than just on the weekends. So
I went to college basically so I could
minute.
see her for 2 days a week without her parents dictating everything that we did.
We did take my mom's college class together and sat right in the front row, like this far.
All right, let's go.
We made it like 3/4 of the way through the semester before our classmates figured out that I was her kid.
All those stories that she's talking about are
about Laura,
about Laura and her boyfriend and all the different stuff.
And so you guys are just giggling.
Yep.
That's funny.
So
only college class Josh ever got an A in.
That's true.
Wow.
I went above and beyond for that one.
Because you were working hard?
Oh, yeah.
Because you just got the bonus A from the future mother-in-law?
No, I had to work for that. I mean, she wasn't given nothing.
Gotcha.
I'm pretty sure she would have rather failed me, but I worked hard in that one.
Tried real hard.
But the rest of them, I was just there to see her, so I didn't.
Wow.
College wasn't my.
That's romance right there. When a guy on a podcast just confirms the only reason he was in community college was the girl.
Yep.
Okay. Must be powerful attraction. So when did you guys get married, or when did you know that it was time to get married?
So we dated for 4 or 5 years, all through last 2 years of high school, college. We got married when we were 22.
Mm-hmm. When we when we were dating, we were too old to go to camp. We were too old to go to camp.
Sorry, Laura's looking off into space. She's like,
I'm remembering things.
Yeah.
I don't know how to be on a podcast.
Yeah, no, you're doing great.
We were too old to continue participating in camp, but I had worked at a restaurant for a little while as a manager. That is a valuable experience. And I ended up texting his sister one day, and I was like, hey, if I quit my job, will you come work at summer camp with me? And so we both quit whatever jobs we were doing and went and worked at summer camp at Camp Living Waters where we met. Yeah.
Now, this is before or after you're married?
This is right before we got married. So we had been dating for a while. And then after that, we then would our weekends together because we lived we didn't live any closer because we were both still with our parents. I'm losing track. It's been too long. But we would go on weekends and just go volunteer. So I would work in the kitchen and he would work down at the barn. And our weekends together, we spent mostly apart because we were volunteering for hours. But that was what we did.
But you're in the same location and that counted.
Yes.
Yeah. Got to see each other at meals and all that.
Yeah. But a lot of our experience when we were doing that, I think for the most part, we've grown at the same pace, spiritually our whole lives. But I think my summer camp, working on staff experience put me in a different spot. Cause I think that was one of those level up scenarios where I was navigating some tough questions about making my faith my own. And he was just back at home doing a normal job. And
that was the one that out of both my siblings and I and a lot of my cousins, I was the one Living Waters was so near and dear to my heart. And I was like, oh, I'm going to work there. I always had planned. I talked to the directors at the time. As soon as I graduated high school, I was going to work there for 4 years. And I was the only one out of my immediate family that didn't work on summer staff until down the road we came on full-time
so you're
staff.
kind of feeling left out just a little bit. Yeah.
But it was where she's out making, her faith her own and growing, leveling up, as she was saying. I was kind of not really going the opposite direction, but not really pushing myself.
Yeah. A little plateau there.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no one to push you. There's no students with needs that are sharpening you and you have to answer questions. And I get it.
So, that summer was probably it was one of the best summers for us, but also the hardest because she was off, she was doing stuff, she was growing, convictions on her stuff. I was just kind of coasting. So I feel there was some good moments for us as a couple that was all right, we're either going to make it or not.
Yeah.
And somehow
you did.
Somehow we did.
Yeah. The woman that ran the ranch at the camp, I forever credit her. She spoke in our wedding because she was just so valuable in, she was the voice that God used to I think, walk you to that.
Yeah, her
next.
and her husband both just like really mentored me and kind of pushed me like, hey, you obviously got something good going here. Where are you at? And they just really got kind of
and
behind
didn't
me.
let you make excuses.
Yeah.
They made you answer the hard questions and move forward. And so
taught me a lot on how now I talk to that generation.
Yeah.
So it's been a very cool, like full
That's
circle
awesome.
thing.
Yeah.
See, this is all new for me because when I met you guys, you were on the other side of that experience. Now you're the mature camp leaders, and then we brought. Well, I meant Josh. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding. You bring the party, which is awesome. But there's a deep level of maturity that comes with years of having not just served there, but when I finally met you guys, you were the director, I guess it was called, or
I don't even really know what our
titles changed.
You were the
small camp, so doer of the things.
Yeah,
all
you
of
were
them.
doer of all the things at Camp Living Waters. Yeah, But let's back up. So the next year is the year you get married.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we got engaged. I was like actually doing an internship there. We got engaged while I was doing that, and then I worked on summer staff one more summer, and then moved back home to finish out my associate degree because I kind of stopped in the middle. The ADHD is strong, and we were getting ready for our wedding, and we found out that my mom had a seizure, and we found out that she had a stage 4 brain tumor, glioblastoma multiforme is what it's called.
Yeah, I was at the camp volunteering that weekend. She, for some reason,
the
grace of God, was at home. So she calls me in the middle of the night. That all goes down. And then the weeks leading up.
So it was 5 months to the day before our wedding. And so,
wow.
Yeah, that was just such a wild experience. And so thank God she was at the wedding and doing awesome. Like she partied so hard. Every fun and funny thing about me is from her, 100%. So, that's something that was fun for me this weekend as we had our women's retreat is like hearing.
You're at the tab,
yeah. Yeah. I got to be the MC, which was someone's poor choice, but I did it. It was great. But it was a cool thing that God kind of allowed me to recognize was like that vacuum that was created when her personality was no longer here. It like drew that out of me. And so
she was super excited about it coming home, and it's like, I felt like I was
like God did so much this weekend, but that thing was for you, just for me. Yeah, for sure. So
you weren't always the big personality.
No.
Really?
Oh my goodness, no. I was very shy, a big time people pleaser, like kind of just background. Very opposite to my
I've never known this person. Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
And when I say big personality, I mean that in the best sense of the word. Is you guys are a really cool couple. Josh and I were joking yesterday, and he was like, I got to remember to talk some. And which is the thing. Josh has plenty to say. He just don't want to say it in big group. Whereas Laura, she's like, bring it on, type of deal. And so I'll save some of that for later. But back, so you found out your mom had this brain tumor through the seizure. She was doing well at your funeral. What happened next?
Yeah, at our wedding.
Funeral.
His funeral,
wedding.
maybe.
Sorry. Shortly after,
so
there was a funeral, is what I was trying to say.
Yeah. So that all, like, the next year, so, like, a big part of going through what we went through with her mom really launched us in the trajectory of getting into full-time ministry.
Really?
Because, when you're going through tragedy like that, like, living out tragedy in real time, because, like, she's here, but she's going.
So that's what I was getting at. You knew that this was terminal?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, we knew it was before.
Like, the way that we found out how severe of a tumor it was like she was trying to ask like where she was going to be in her treatment plan come my wedding or our wedding. And the doctor kind of like does some mental math. Oh yeah, you should still be here for that. Like,
wow,
that was how he dropped that bomb.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
But then she blew that out of the water, and she was rough.
I need to make a road trip and find that guy.
Yeah.
I know.
That wow.
My dad fired him, and she had a different college.
Mother's Day,
Yeah.
But
So she's in this battle.
yeah.
And how many more months did you have with your mom?
So she passed away 3 weeks before our first anniversary.
3 days.
Wow.
Yeah, 3 days before her birthday, 3 weeks before
Our
our anniversary, and then
So
And
yeah.
I'm just imagining this. The way you described your family is it's your mom, your dad. You have an autistic brother that hasn't developed past the age of 12, essentially.
yeah, I mean he is
12
now, but he's,
Yeah.
Teenager.
But
He's
you're
30
just
now.
saying that development, type of
Mhm.
thing. And so I assume like you're mama's girl. You're
Well, I think that a lot of it was I am my mom, and we butted heads badly when I
Oh,
was a
wow.
teenager. Like I wasn't that bad, but like we just our
They're a lot-
personalities
they-
rocked
Yeah, they're
each
a
other
lot
all the time.
alike, and
And so something for me, like again, I grew a lot at camp, and something that I was like very excited for was that relationship as an adult and like being my mom's friend once I'm out of her
Mhm.
house and all that stuff. And so it was like grieving the loss of my mom and
Mm.
also having to reconcile with the fact that like I don't get any of the
mhm.
doesn't want me to cry.
no, it's okay.
But yeah, so it was but with
So you
that
were like
when
23,
I turned 23
Oh,
a couple
yeah.
days after.
Yeah, a couple days
23 years old,
Mhm.
and you're without your mom.
after. Mhm.
Yeah. And
All the while through that process, we were still like serving at the camp when we can, but then like I had quit my job early on, kind of it had been the May after, so it was about halfway in
our
between.
lease was up on our first apartment that we lived in.
Yeah,
and
so like I quit my job to go and
move
like
up
we
north.
moved up north to her in with her parents. So like I kind of helped her dad just kind of keep, so like he could focus on work, but also taking care of his wife. And then I was doing all the property stuff and just kind of maintaining all that. And we're still serving at the camp when we can. And we had talked about going on staff as like mission staff.
Fundraising our
like
own.
fundraising our own.
Oh, I forgot that part.
Um,
Yes.
So we had started talking about that like that summer, but like with everything going on with her mom, we're like, we just didn't feel like at peace about it. So we elected not to go on staff
Go be summer
then.
staff, yeah.
But as the end was coming with her mom,
But when you're going through something like that, like all of the trivial
Mhm.
stuff just is not even on the
It's a
table
perspective
anymore.
changer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you don't have to waste so much time. Like we'll say to people, we didn't have a normal first year of marriage because everything was stripped away. We were watching. My dad is one of the most incredible husbands I've ever witnessed, and I know that because I watched how he faithfully loved my mom, and like, I just think that set us up for so many good things in our lives because of
we
that
learned a lot of
experience.
lessons
Yeah.
in that
Yeah.
experience that like a lot of people our age just didn't. Like
Yeah.
there was so much stuff that we just kind of fast tracked through that, like find yourself in your early 20s and in your first year of marriage, that honeymoon phase, all
Yeah.
that, like we just didn't really feel that.
And we would
'Cause-
always joke about camp like being our retirement plan, and then all of a sudden God is like opening these. So we're like navigating this valley of like losing her, and then also God's opening all these
Yeah.
doors of like, wait, we want this,
Mhm.
but we could do this right now. And so
Yep.
we
Oh,
started.
that's intense. Yeah.
Yeah, we started our ministry
Yeah.
journey
the day after
our
our
first
first anniversary, wedding
Wow.
anniversary. So
You decided we're going on staff,
Mhm.
which at Camp Living Waters means you got to raise your own
There-
salary.
At that
yeah,
time,
at that
yeah.
time.
You got to find churches and individuals that are,
Yep.
man, this is mirroring my own experience.
Yeah. So that was
Of my wife and I in college, the loss of my best friend, and it's a perspective changer. And
Yeah.
then the one place where you're growing spiritually, you're like, let's join that and let's go. And sport raising sucks.
yes, it does. Don't recommend that, but
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
it was good.
It's good.
Yeah.
But-
it's humbling. And
Yeah.
it's also, you get to see how God provides. And so
Yeah.
how long did that take to raise support and to get on?
So
staff
we were
there?
still working on that, like in the midst of like being with her mom in those last few months. Like we were still going out. Like that was kind of the stuff that we were
Right.
doing with the camp, just going around doing all the promotional stuff at the churches. And it didn't honestly take very long. Like people really like got behind us, and like we were for the most part fully funded for
Yeah.
the first year, like pretty quick. And it only lasted, I think, 2 months, and some stuff happened there where I came on full-time paid staff at that point, and then she stayed on mission staff for like a year.
I stayed the full year,
Something like that. So that just made it that much eeasier.
Right.
Yeah, because all the money that was designated for both of us got shifted to me. So I was like,
So if anything, we got a pay raise.
Yeah, exactly.
So
So was it really your desire to go into ministry is because this place had been so impacting for both of your spiritual journeys?
Yeah,
and you just want to be a part of it.
Yeah, for sure. So like outside of like when I accepted Christ, like our youth group was great for times and all that, like, but it wasn't really
Small town, small church.
just kind of, they didn't do a great job at the youth side of things. But camp was always that place that in the summer, I'd always get that spiritual high. I would just be like on fire for the Lord. And then I go back to school and just kind of get sucked back into that. So it was always what kind of brought us back.
And this I think will be helpful for listeners because there's, I think God's calling people all the time to do different things. Was it if there are two extremes in the ministry calling thing, with on one side you have Paul's Damascus Road experience where there's a bright shining light and you are blinded and it's a voice from heaven and who are you, Lord? I'm Jesus who you're persecuting. I'm calling you, right? So that's one extreme, the big dramatic call. On the other extreme is there's 5,000 plus people sitting on a mountainside and they go, Lord, would you send these people away? Because there's nothing, they're going to faint out here. That's hot. There's no 7-Elevens close by. They need some food.
Yep.
Send them away. And Jesus says, you feed them. Kind of like we need somebody to volunteer, right? What do you have? Bring it. So where would you say your calling felt? Was it more like, here's a need. We could be good at this. Let's go. Or was it a big, dramatic, shining, like God spoke to you?
I definitely think it was it wasn't a big, shiny thing. Like, I think we wrestled with it for a while. And like that first time making that, like, okay, we're actually going to do this, that first leap of faith, really that in itself taught us a lot and how like things proceeded, all the choices that we've made since then.
Yeah. And
which there's no right answer.
Right.
Because mine's very similar to yours.
Yeah.
It was like, here's a need, we volunteer.
Yep.
Okay.
We adopted this phrase like that first year that when we were on mission staff of be who you needed when you were younger. And when I think that's really how
say that again. That was beautiful.
Be who you needed when you were younger.
Oh, wow.
So exactly like that couple was for me.
Yeah.
Like we had that desire to be that for people.
Well,
coming
and we
into
saw a place that we had to, like, what we had to give was what was needed.
Yeah.
And it was like, that's how I've never heard the audible voice of God, but we both have absolutely, I mean, that's kind
heard
of
the voice of God. Yeah.
How
Not the
we're
audible.
even at the Tabernacle. Like, it wasn't this like, boom, we're doing this. It was just, when there's a space and God's got that door open and it's one step forward after another, trusting him to close the door if it's time to close it. And then you just find yourself doing things, and it's not, for us at least, it's not because of these big aha moments. It's like we're just in the space that he has for us because he can use our voice and our wiring to accomplish his goals or his needs for that spot. And then that has had some hard exits at times. Like our story has some, like, lots of pain and disappointment. But one of our prayers, it has been that when we are no longer somewhere, so like we're obviously not in camp ministry anymore. And one of our prayers was always that when Josh and Laura are no longer a part of this, that God's the one that's remembered and not us. And human us does not deal well with that. Because you said it yesterday. What was I
think it was like we want recognition, but we don't want the credit for it. So like, I think that's a
beautiful way to say that, because it feels good to be recognized when you've worked hard and you've, to go back to what you were saying, it sounds like, to use some of the language we've used here, is that both of you gave the Lord your yes. And what's remarkable is that, this is where I wanted to go here, was that you continue to give him your yes, because Ministry's hard.
Mm-hmm.
Ministry will beat you up. Ministry will take and take and take and take and take. And it's true of camp ministry. It's true of church ministry, and figuring out how to do it and still have a marriage. I'm enamored. If you're listening to the podcast and you're not watching it, Laura loves to look at Josh's face still. How long have you guys been married? 12 years? 12 years. And when she's talking, she's just staring into his baby blues. So at least that's still strong is what I'm saying. But you're still giving God your yes, which is pretty amazing. So let's talk about the first of all, when did the kids come along?
We had a phase where we didn't think we were going to have kids. We were
so into that, and like we had so many like camp kids that we were like mentoring, counseling, doing all that
even
with.
though we were kids when we were doing
and it's like looking
23.
back at it, I was just talking to somebody else on staff yesterday about them. Like, I feel like the 23, 20 to 5-year-old me doing what I did, it's like, wow, you weren't really prepared for that, but yet God still used you in that. Yeah. So it's just cool how he's like used that later on down the road too.
So we worked at Camp Living Waters for a couple of years, and then we ended up in a camp. We ended up leaving that ministry in pursuit of working under a different director who we just were like so bought into his vision, and because he was like one of those leaders that was just so tapped into like following God's lead, and like that when someone's like that, like it just draws you in because you're like, oh, you're so in tune with this, and I can get behind that because it removes man from the picture. Yeah. So we were like fully on board for that. And
was that in Michigan? That
was in Ohio.
No, that was in Ohio. So that was another one of those like giving God your yes of like, okay, well, this
Michigan
is
people moving to Ohio. That is like a
move,
mission field,
right?
For you guys.
So
wow,
yeah. But it was another one of those small acts of obedience that like was huge, but also like it became more and more easy for us to like take that next leap. And it's like, okay, God, let's see what we do, what you're going to do through us in this. That all blew up in less than 7 months, 8 months.
So
like
short.
It was a whole
So the camp didn't work out?
No, so like the guy that we were talking about that we went to serve under, it was a whole blindsided.
Their board of directors, it's hard.
It's okay.
There was humanness, and they let him go, and we are like the only thing that we came here for was to serve under him, and our families back home.
And that board was like full of a lot of pastors and stuff like that, and I feel like that was one of the first times that like I was able to like speak out of like, hey, something's not right here, and like I'm not a pastor, and I'm gonna like basically call these guys out for it. And it was a huge like
because it wasn't
moment.
biblical how they were handling it, conflict.
Wow.
And
so like it was one of those first times that like a lot of conflict was like when we left Living Waters, it was more of a submission to like God's authority and who he put in authority above us, and like we couldn't get behind that, so like we had to move from that. And then down there it was like, okay, something's not right here, like let's stand up for what we feel is biblically accurate. And they weren't willing to budge, so we're just like, all right, like we're 9 hours from our closest family, like down in Ohio, which was a beautiful place. A lot of big deer down there, I will say that.
If you didn't catch that, Laura said they found the one beautiful part of Ohio.
That's true.
But this is what's amazing, because I've heard a lot of these stories. So this is like an 0 for 2, because you just mentioned that real quickly, is the situation wasn't great at the camp you were at, and then you got behind someone that you were like, okay, I can get behind this. And then that didn't end well.
Yep.
Most people at this point are like, we're done. We're done. I'm going to go, teach psychology? or you know.
Well, she had just started like getting into like a dual enrollment.
Yeah, that's what, because you asked about kids. That was like one of those, I think for me more than anything, like one of those like proving ground kind of places where like I finally found a female. Remember, like my mom's not a part of my life, and so
that's right.
I don't have that in my world.
Mom
and
figure. Yeah.
And so I found the director's wife. Not that she was a mom, but like a mother figure to me. But like, because we're not that far apart in age, but like she just spoke so much truth into my life, and she had teenage kids, and like they're wonderful. Watching her be a mom, I'm like,
I could do that.
I can.
Yeah.
Or if my kids are going to turn out this.
Yeah.
We have so
I want
much,
my kids to be like those guys. Yeah.
Like, but
no, she gave you a vision of what a godly wife and a woman and someone in ministry could
sure.
be.
And then the director also gave me this desire to go back to school because I had just had my associate's degree. I'm very nerdy. Like, I love academics. And so I got enrolled in this weird program that was both my bachelor degree and my master's degree at the same time in like rapid pace. So I was like in 8-week theology courses and like just
nice.
It was wild. And then that all
that
blew
happened.
up. So we kind of
Yep. And then we moved back to Michigan.
got scooped up by, because we were floundering, didn't know what we were going to do.
Yeah, because we still had that passion, that desire to like serve in camp ministry. And it just kind of, I mean, like I said earlier, like camp community is so small, but still it's got a lot of reach. And there's a couple guys there was a guy at one of the camps that was just down the road from Living Waters. It's actually just south of, it's Center Lake Bible Camp, just south of Cadillac and Tustin there. And he's like, hey, we're doing this big building project. Like, I know you've got a lot of ministry experience, but also like you can help build stuff too.
You're a man who knows how to do things.
Yeah. So he brought us on there, and it was just kind of that landing place, and it was.
He gave us a home because we like the house was part of your package,
Yeah.
which was wonderful.
So we were able to live on site and do that, and we served there for about a year.
And
that's when we got pregnant for Addie. Was kind of in the transition from there into going back to Living Waters. Stuff happened there with that previous director, and then he
was no longer there, and they
were kind of in a bad spot there as far as like they had horses and all that, but they had nobody to take care of them. So I was driving 20 minutes every day from one camp to the other to take care of the horses.
You were at 2 camps at the same time.
Yes,
yeah.
sure
So like
was.
These camps need to get their act together. It sounds like.
Yeah.
So if you haven't followed it, it's met the ones nearest and dearest to your heart is Camp Living Waters. Then we went. Then that didn't kind of work out. Then we went to Ohio. That didn't work out.
Yep.
Now we're at another camp, but then Camp Living Waters like, hey, remember us?
So it
we
was
need help with the horses. Sorry, this is just how I summarize this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect.
Yeah.
But it was a cool moment, like because like I struggled with some of the stuff that was there. Would just like, I feel like I can offer more than what I was doing there. Like I didn't really she got to be a part of the programming and see the kids, see the guests,
And
all
you're a
that.
horse guy.
And like, and she even got to help with the horses and all that. And like I did, but I didn't. I was just a
You're very much
construction
like
worker.
a construction.
And it was just like it wasn't long term gonna.
Gotcha.
But it was a cool moment that like when the stuff at Living Water started happening, I was driving back and forth. Like I went and talked to the director there, and I was like, hey, help guide me. And at that point, like I'd been kind of burned by a lot of like men in authority over me. So I'm just like, I don't know about this. Like, but like talking with her, like we're like, all right, we're just gonna go ask him and talk to him about like what we.
You're talking about Dwayne.
Yeah. Of like how should we handle this whole Living Waters thing? Because like we can see the writing on the wall that they're going to ask us to come back because I'm already over there. Like obviously our hearts are there. He knows our hearts there, and it was just a cool moment that we could just kind of hash it out. And it was a very seamless. It was the first like seamless transition that we had.
Wow. Where you weren't sad where you were.
Yeah.
It's just home is at Camp Living Waters, and an opportunity opened up.
Yep.
And another one of those like not audible voice of God, but absolutely used Dwayne to
in that conversation.
To speak truth. And he he was so humble and gracious and like saw.
Which I didn't it was definitely who he is, but I didn't expect it because obviously you don't want to lose good people that you're working with. But it was definitely.
Well, there was something that you said. I want to pick up on it, which is refreshing to hear because you said before that you made mention millennial generation, right? And so, but you're not like most, or what the stereotype of millennials are, especially millennials who are born and raised in the church, because very graciously when we were talking about Ohio, you said humanness happened. Which, man, if more people could get that, and even going back further, I'm seeing this thread where you had said, listen, it's nice to be recognized, but we don't want the credit. And the implication is there that we want the credit to go to Christ, to go to God, that we're here to serve him, that long after we're gone, they'll remember their encounter with Jesus and they don't have to remember Josh and Laura. And that's something I wish more people could grasp, even in local church. Or just ministry in general, because people will let you down, and you guys have been let down by people. And I'm sure you've let people down too. I mean, that was part of that was probably part of the interview process when Josh came on staff is, hey, by the way, I'm going to let you down. If you're not ready for that, it's not the place for you, right? But recognizing that we're crackpots, recognizing that we're humans, and not putting that on the sinless one who is Christ, which is just super refreshing to hear, because there's a lot of people who are like, I'm never stepping foot on that camp again. Right. But it sounds like they offered you something, and now you've got a kid.
So we moved it while we were pretty far along
the
there.
kid, or Addie was on the way.
Yeah,
on the way.
I was very
Gotcha.
pregnant when we started there.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we went back
So
there.
back to Camp Living Water, and you're the doer of all things.
Yep.
Yeah, we were the only
Now
ones.
then, at that point, we didn't have anybody. Like, we had the board that we were working alongside of, and it's just us two for a little while. And then we were able to bring on an intern. So it was us at
Which
20.
you call it an intern, but she was also everything. She was just as much staff as we were.
I thought you were going to say, you call her an intern. She was a slave.
A little bit. I think we were.
Yeah.
So
there's only 3 people on staff at that
We
big
were the
giant
only
camp with the
people
horses
there.
and the things
Yep.
and all the maintenance and all the food. Wow.
Yep. And then we bring in Addie into the equation in September. And so
right
it's
before
like,
women's retreat. So the thing I'm supposed to be running, I'm like 3 weeks postpartum, I think.
Oh my.
And we're
Wow.
just like,
Yeah.
yeah, and bring in postpartum to like,
challenges.
yep. And that we like around when Addie was like 6 months old, probably which is wild to say because we've been through some crazy stuff, but that was probably the darkest spiritually, emotionally, mentally that both of us have ever been. We were kind of at the end of both of our ropes, and we were at a conference thing, and I just remember both like just sobbing like in our room at the end of the day, like we can't do this anymore. Like this is
It's too much. There's too much going on.
you add that added factor of like having a baby and
the first time, like we never,
challenging baby.
Yeah.
And like just the
she was not
weight we're
easy.
carrying of like this ministry kind of falls on our shoulders, and we're not equipped and we're not being supported in the way that we need. And it was super challenging.
Now at this time, are you living on the camp in like the director's
house,
home
yeah.
and all that
Yep.
kind of stuff? Yeah.
Yep.
Which is out in the middle of nowhere if you don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I mean, there's
And then you drive a few more miles into the woods. That's
Yeah.
how you give
Yeah.
directions to
it's
there.
like 45, 50 minutes.
go to
from
nowhere, a few more miles, and you're in Camp Living Waters.
Mhm.
Wow.
And it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But that's real.
So-
You know what you were saying. Now, was that moment at the conference, was that a good moment? Did it turn into a good moment, or was it just a rock bottom and we need
Definitely,
to
I feel
figure
like it
some of
was
this out?
rock bottom. But it was also, it was a shift to where
Mhm.
like, all right, something needs to change, both with our spiritual healthiness, but also as a couple, as now new parents of like our ministry is changing, to like, we now have a daughter.
Yeah, and there's the passage in Corinthians, it's like, fix your eyes on what is unseen, because what is seen is temporary, what's unseen is eternal.
Mhm.
And I think that is a verse that has maybe like it's played out so much in our life, and then to like look at it and see this is what this is saying, and like we need to set aside what's like temporal, what's of earth, because we're not for here, and focus on the eternal factors, and it draws you out of those dark places. And not that we stayed there for a while, like
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
it was, that season of our life was super challenging and super low, but there was something to cling to, a truth that like we know to our core that even when we can't pull ourselves out of it, we can look at it and keep taking that step of obedience, even if that step of obedience just looks like staying
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
when you don't want to.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's well said. How long were you at Camp Living Waters?
We were there for after that, probably another year and a half.
Yeah, they brought on an executive director to be over us.
Was that when we first met?
Mm-hmm.
Was during those?
No, you would have been I don't think he was on staff yet, was he? When
He was,
spoke?
but it would have been CLW round 2.
Yeah,
when we met.
that's when. Yeah,
Yes.
So it was before that director
So
came
during
on.
during
It was
that
actually
2.5
pretty close
years.
to that.
Yeah.
Like that really low point. It would actually have been
right
within
after,
a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Either right after or right before.
Oh, good. So you
when
met us at our lowest. Awesome.
Yeah, like legitimately, that was.
Well, at your lowest, and was very impressed. And I don't remember if the first time was here at the Tabernacle at the Buckley campus that you came up here, or if it was when we went to men's retreat. I thought it was you guys came up here a couple times.
We had been coming
and you
since
brought your summer camp or your
Yeah, 'cause
summer
actually
staff.
backing up to
when we were at Center Lake.
when we were
before-
at Center Lake, one of the guys that worked for me at Living Waters the first time, he kind of took over my position after we left. He actually married into the Arnett family.
Oh yeah,
So he invited.
I was at that wedding.
Yeah.
So he invited me to go to
wedding.
Fight Club. So like I mean, John's a quiet guy. Anybody that knows
Yeah.
John, he's
Yeah.
very quiet, but he was really growing in that stage. And so he's like, "Hey, I'm going to Fight Club. I'm plugged in. This is what it's all about." And like a lot of guys,
That's
like,
where it was. Okay.
So Fight Club's really what got a hold of me. So we started going up here, and then again, we're in full-time ministry, so we're working on the weekends. So getting away to church on the weekends because we still had groups in. It was hard, but in the summertime we were able to bring up
during breaks.
Yeah, so like
Yeah.
Sundays, like we started camp on Sunday, but we always had Sunday mornings off. So that was always
Right.
our morning off that we had that week. So we just started attending. And that was like 2017, 2018.
Yeah.
Up here in Buckley.
So CLW for now on, that's Camp Living Waters. Round 2 also doesn't end well.
No.
Correct. And again, humans got involved.
Yep.
Mhm.
But again, you guys it didn't seem to jade you from your faith. It may have jaded you a little bit about people. Do you want to speak to that, Laura?
I think that this is one of those areas that's one we still navigate, one that's kind of resurfaced a lot since, because we've been out of ministry. So that ended in the beginning of 2020.
Oh, yay. Right before COVID.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, it was like 4 or 5 months before then.
We got fired from both of our jobs, like both of us worked together. So lost 2 jobs and our home because that was part of our package. We had a 18-month-old daughter and I was 5 months pregnant with our son and
wow.
then moved in with my wonderful father. And then good old governor shut down the state during that time that will not be named.
Yeah, thank you. You're with me on that one.
Yep.
Yep. So
you guys are
What a
just,
journey.
as my mom or dad would say from their generation, through the ringer.
Mm-hmm.
Through the ringer. Now, during this time, are you still thinking that ministry's in the future, or you're like, we need a minute?
I feel like we were at a point where it's like, because the way it happened and where it happened, it was the only way, like we talk about all the time, it's the only way that I would have let it go. Because like even when we were in Ohio, even when we were at Center Lake, like I always had this like burning desire, like I'm not finished at Living Waters yet. Like I just knew that in my soul. So at that point, the way it all went down, it's like, okay, maybe that was it.
he had a mentor in his life that he had really like opened up to and allowed to speak in and lovingly. You don't do the best job of like being truly vulnerable and allowing someone to know all of the like most imperfect parts. Like I live it, so I figure it out on my own, but to like tell people about it. And so he had
That's
really
natural.
done that with this mentor. And then
Then that guy came on the board there, and he was
a part of the process of
fire. Like basically use that transparency and that vulnerability as like
that's the worst.
The beating stick to like fire us with.
and that may be our perspective too, but it definitely was like the humanness, but that one was devastating. And as the wife, I'm like you can hurt me all day long, but like you hurt
Mama Bear's coming out.
So that I think, and yeah, like I said, it's been.
But that's so painful too. And now it's like distrust of leaders, especially because this keeps happening. This keeps happening, and which is like the thread that I picked up to or at the beginning. There's still this commitment to the Supreme Commander, which he doesn't mess up, but he's doing something. He's prepping you.
Yep.
Like you don't come into the Tabernacle staff like, hey, rose-colored glasses. You're like, all right, we'll see if John
absolutely
knows how to
your
pull
personality.
Yeah. So Was that when you started working with Anchorpoint?
So
properties?
I worked for another guy that was doing the similar stuff, but we just kind of never really got in over our heads with
And
it.
the stuff is managing
property
properties.
management. Yeah, I had a little stint where I worked
like
in
hunters and stuff like that. Yeah.
worked in retail for a hot minute. That was another
Not your
pretty low spot. But then started doing that, and then started my own company with Anchorpoint Properties, and was able to be in the outdoor space again and still like get to do ministry and figuring out how to like weave ministry into that space.
Yeah.
So it was huge. And just like we were talking on the way up here, it's like, there's so many things that set us up. Like if we would have stayed in Ohio, like I probably wouldn't be as big of an outdoorsman as I am now, because with the camp community, there's always conferences and stuff going on in the fall because it's like kind of the slowest time. So like I did a lot of hunting. There's a lot of big deer down there, but I didn't. I didn't have time for it. And at that time I was so on fire for ministry that the outdoor space took a back seat. So then fast forward to that. So like I can see what God was doing then of like, okay, he's got something else for you.
Well, and in that retail season, and like then you were doing that and the land management, but then we started talking about like you crave ministry, like you want to be back, because just after you've been in it, like to just go do a job is exhausting in a like, what, this isn't like, not that you can't do ministry in those places. Some of your like one of your closest friends today, you'd have never met had you not worked in retail. So like
but you're obviously at this point called, and you're missing that fulfillment.
Yeah, 100%. And so then when we were like, even in the name of your company, as we were like coming up with it, we knew that it was just a catalyst to be able to continue doing ministry. And we wanted to make sure that like from its origin, it was something that God could turn into something else. So obviously like the work is managing hunting land and bringing in deer, and like,
but it's relational.
Yeah. And like the name Anchorpoint, like it's an archery term, you have to have your anchor points to be able to, so this is your job.
She's paying attention. Yeah.
I'm your marketing manager.
Yeah, that's great.
I expect a raise.
Yeah.
But yeah, just to like having those anchor points in life, like you have to have a solid, consistent foundation to be able to launch into anything you're going to do. If you're going to go on the attack, you need to first set yourself right, like at the start. And then that's where the consistency and that's where the steadiness comes from.
And with naming it that way, was able to then use that, like people are like, how do you come up with that name? And so like we go through that with them. Like, and when I'm starting to like build my clientele, it's like, I want this to be that talking point to where we can then bring ministry into it. So it's like,
I didn't know that about Anchorpoint. I like that. I learned something today. I learned a lot today. Yeah. Now, at this time, you're living in, it's not Tustin.
No, this was far. When we started this, we were at my dad's house.
We were at,
But then at some point, you guys started attending the Tab again.
Yeah. So, at that point, we're an hour and 35 minutes or so. Right. We got 2 young kids. So, like, we're still attending the Tab, but it just got harder and harder. Like,
we were so far away from
everything. We started feeling like that we really lost the community that we were building, because still some of the people that we knew when we first started coming, like, are still some of our closest friends at the Tab. But it just got harder and harder. And then when
the world was shut down, and so that made everything difficult. So we started coming back when the Cadillac.
Yeah, so when all this stuff started to happen with opening the Cadillac campus, we're like, oh, sweet, it's the halfway point between us and
immediately,
and
yes.
So
and
it's like,
full disclosure, you have been on the radar since I first went to that camp. It's like, hey, this guy Josh, we need more farm boy guys that can do ministry, that also know how to kill things and do stuff, and then like I remember that part when the Cadillac campus was launching. It was like, hey, what do we have to do?
Yep.
And I don't remember if you reached out to us or we reached out to you, but it was definitively in my brain. Yeah, let's proceed with this kind of relationship.
Yeah.
But the Cadillac launches, and how far of that is a commute for you right now?
45 minutes.
It's
42 technically, but 40.
And we're hoping kind of to do that. But why would you guys jump on an opportunity to do church ministry? Because you think camp ministry will chew you up. Churches don't always have the greatest record. I mean, we try to take care of our team. I'm not putting down the Tabernacle, but it's just, I mean, you've been burned so many different times.
But that was what the cool part about being a part of the Tab. Like we talk about all the time, like we don't pull punches. Like we're going to speak what's true. And like, it was always still that consistent thing. Like every time that we listened to a message from any one of the preaching team, like it was still true. And it was like, okay, we're not going to shy away from the hard things. And it's like, okay, we haven't really shied away from the hard things.
We're going to keep some hard things.
Yeah. So it's like, it was just always something that like, okay, we relate so well with the people.
And again, it was like that, seeing an opportunity to, like, there was needs and like having the ability to fill those needs, and also like nice having the other end where people were recognizing, again, like I'm kind of off to the side at this point of just like watching and having trust issues with all people in leadership, because we've been burned so many times, and like watching you say yes and just being like, I mean, I don't know, church, I don't know about this.
And then you met Adam Ray.
Bless him.
No, what's behind that is Pastor Adam had come on our team as the executive pastor, and I don't remember what event it was.
We hadn't really done a whole lot of stuff, because like it was in that kind of that lull period of like it's not too far of a drive, but it's a long drive to go to Buckley. Right. Cadillac hadn't like officially launched yet.
Right.
Well, yeah, it was close.
Yeah, it was close.
Or maybe it was
all happening at once, very fast.
It really was.
Yeah.
And then it was at our main up retreat that I met him, and we talked.
Hit it off, which is a cool thing. It was a bromance in the best sense of the word.
Truly.
Shared interests, and he was super impressed with you. He heard part of your story, and I remember he came back from that going, I think we need this guy on our team. And I'm like, oh, you're telling me something I don't know, because I'm telling you all the way back to when Ben Brown was our executive pastor. Ben and I were both like, how do we get these guys, but not wanting to be the Holy Spirit in your life.
Right.
But, they say in leadership, the who, the what, and the where are the easiest parts. It's the when is the real art kind of leadership, because you don't want to get ahead of the Holy Spirit. You don't want to definitely be dragging your feet behind the Holy Spirit. But the when is the real art of it. And so we were super excited when, you said yes.
Yeah.
I want to go back to the Anchorpoint thing. For our podcast listeners who just heard kind of the story of how you got here, and you're not all the way here, because we're hoping, and we can be praying about this if you're praying about it in 2025, we would love to see, Josh and Laura closer, right? I know the whole thing with the house and how do we get rid of this house and find the right house in this market? It's terrible.
Hard to give up that 3.5% interest.
Oh, I know. Maybe you shouldn't. Yeah, we'll talk off. But how have you kept that anchor point, both of you, from becoming what I was talking about, jaded in ministry, jaded about leaders? Because I'm telling you, I meet people all the time that will come to our church and they'll be like, I mean, no pressure, preacher, but this is the last shot.
Yeah.
I mean, we're either, never been to church, or we'll give church one more chance, or ministry in general. How have you kept personally that anchor point?
I mean, I feel like it just goes back to like the timing of how everything, like the when that you were talking about. It just seems like every time that it's like, okay, I'm kind of over this, something else stirs of where I can get on like another dream, another like what could it be down the road? And it just always has happened.
So that overcomes the disappointment that you see God kind of.
Yeah. Because like even when I started my company, it was going really well. We finally like more financially secure than we ever have been, because we were in full-time ministry and got paid nothing. So it's like we're finally making.
Hopefully not now. That's not the case.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
It's that's the whole thing. But yeah, it was.
I think it speaks to our wiring too, because you are a dreamer and can like just like lean into one dream to the next dream to the next dream, and you don't sit in the disappointment very long. Versus, I'm a controller and I want the security. I think that's like maybe women in general, like we lean into security.
Deepest need of a woman.
Yeah. So it's like think that's what speaks to the anchor point. It's like, where am I finding my security? Is it in the temporal, or is it in the eternal? And like for you, it's like, are we finding fulfillment and like, this is something we're actively like at home last
Talking
night,
about,
because we're still on our journey of sanctification. Like we're still trying to figure out what the heck is happening.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to answer that question but easy at the same time, because you can see where God's leading and look back and see all of his provision.
For sure.
And I can see his provision right now and look back on all of his faithfulness. And so we help each other, because you keep me looking forward, but I keep you
grounded.
So it's just been really interesting.
Well, that's interesting because I'm relating this to, we did 3 podcasts this spring or winter, spring, Help My Marriage. And Help My Marriage Part 3, we talked about the deepest need of a woman is security. And the word I think you were searching for, the deepest need of a man is significance.
Thank you.
And so he's still, not that, again, which I love that statement that you made, or that you were talking about last night, whereas everyone likes to be recognized for the work they've done, the effort that they've put in, their faithfulness and all that kind of stuff. But it's when you want that credit, right? And so we can take great significance. It's not our identity. Ministry is not our identity. Right. That's been stripped away from you guys multiple times. So this thing with you and Jesus has to be rock solid in order for you to do another ministry, dream, venture, what have you. And if he's the anchor point, then the who and the what and the where and even the when, that can kind of go away. But what would you say has been, for each of you, you can answer this however you want, the biggest lessons learned in giving God your yes, whether it's volunteering in ministry, which is how it began, or to like really, and like I use the word risk your lives, right? You've risked your lives on ministry, because you could make a boatload of money in the world. You have skills I don't have. You have skills that I don't have. You have a dual master's degree. A lot of people don't know. I don't have a master's degree. Never finished, right? But you could make a boatload of money there, but you've risked your lives, like so many of our staff have, to say, you know what, I'm betting on this for the unseen, not on what's seen, not in the temporal, right? So what would you say were the biggest lessons learned in saying yes?
I feel like for me, taking that first step of like, we're going to quit our jobs, we're going to do all the things, we're going to go into ministry, and just like watching time and time again, being able, like what she was saying about me, like looking back and seeing like, okay, I see what you did there, God. Like it got easier. So like giving my yes got easier, and to where it's like, we just look at it from like an open and closed doors now. And I just feel like it's, I don't know, just very simple. I feel like for me, like it's just, God knows where you're going to end up. He's given you the free will, the choice to make the decision on how you get there. We're not going to surprise him. So it's like, that's whatever path we're going to go, like, so why not? Like if we're here to do kingdom work, like let's do kingdom work. And, you know, we've been down roads where it's failed. We've been down roads where it's succeeded, and we just keep getting, it's gotten easier. Yeah. So it's like, it's so hard to put into words. Like when I'm like,
no, you did
like
great
counseling with people. Like I don't know how to like tell you to just try it once, just give him your yes, and just keep doing it, and just watch him work, watch him work in your own life, and it'll become second nature.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a muscle you have to exercise. And I think we kind of got springboarded into it. Like our lives were made simple by something super heavy, and made that first jump easy, so to speak, because our lives were overly simplified at that point. And then once you do it once, it's like an addiction. Like it's not an adrenaline rush, but maybe a spiritual adrenaline rush. You're like, well, like here's all this evidence, even though from a human standpoint, it doesn't make sense. Like one of my favorite moments in our life was we did not make a lot of money, especially like in that Ohio season. And there was a bill that we could not pay, and it was $63. And then all of a sudden, I think it was like our insurance or something. We had overpaid and we got a check for $63.
Yeah.
And like, how can you deny that like that's
that
that's
just
the
happened
best thing
over
about
and
God
over
is
again.
it's not, his provision doesn't always look like these big extravagant things.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's, I need $63. Here's $63.
Here's $63. Wow.
And once it happens there, then
You were worried
let's
about
do it.
tears. That gives me tears whenever I hear those
Mhm.
things. Yeah.
So,
And then
Oh,
there's
that's
just
good.
so many times where that has happened throughout like our
like
the
lost track of the number of
Yeah.
times.
We could do the three of us. We'd have to get someone else to interview us, just how to live on support. Because my wife and I, Darcy and I, for 10 years did that with Missionary Athletes
I can't
International.
imagine doing it for 10
It
years.
was the
though.
hardest-
was rough.
It was the hardest,
Yeah.
most humbling, but beautiful experience at
Mhm.
the same time.
Mhm.
And this is just the way it works in God's economy. Just when we started to like, okay, we figured out the support raising thing, and support started coming in, boop, boop, God calls us somewhere else.
Mhm.
It wasn't until the last year or two that it's like, oh, this is what fully funded means. Because
Mhm.
This
the
is what that
ministry I was
feels
a part
like.
of kind of lets you come if you were only half funded, and she's going to work outside the home, and it was a nightmare. But we experienced the same sort of, to use your phrase, those $63 checks, those checks that you didn't see coming, but it was God just kind of affirming you. You know, what would you say in ministry in general, besides pleasing God and besides seeing His faithfulness, just in working with individuals? You know, and I know from just you were part of the Women's Retreat Fest that just was last weekend. You were a part of putting on the men's retreat, but whether it's Tab women's groups or fight clubs or the weekend, what is the most fulfilling part of ministry for you, each of you, just with people?
I feel like just seeing people get, I don't know, bit by that same bug of just like seeing people like making their faith truly their own and having those moments shared within the people at church, like at our home group and at like Fight Club, Tab Women, just like the community build, that
Yeah.
networking community build for me. Like I don't know, I feel like I just thrive on that.
Yeah. And you're at our bounciest campus too.
Yeah.
I mean,
We have a lot of fun.
We are a hype
Cadillac
crew.
has way too much fun. This is supposed to be hard, and all they do is giggle. Yeah. No, I'm just kidding. Laura, what about for you?
I think it goes back to be who you need when you were younger. Like anytime I get to see, or even like I don't think about it ahead of time, but I just like hear myself saying something that my younger self or my previous self needed to hear, or thoughts I've never even thought on my own, and it's coming out of my mouth as like a lesson learned, and watching somebody else step in and give their yes, big, small ways. Like it's just been so fulfilling to hear my own growth coming out of my mouth before I even recognize, and that's all the credit to God. And like you don't get to have those experiences unless you put yourself out there
Right.
and live in community. And like the thing that draws us to the Tab the most is it's like you're just a dude.
I'm just
Like
a dude.
you with really good at running your mouth, but you're just a dude.
Came in really tired and kind of grumpy today. She's just a dude. And you didn't go, oh, what's wrong with him? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and that's like this church family specifically, like just gets that in a way that we haven't encountered other places. And
And it's
so
consistent too. It like
consistency of character is another like Boulis family buzzword, is that like that's what draws us to people is when consistent character in reflection of Christ,
Nice.
humanness aside.
Yeah.
Like, and we find that in community here, so we get real pumped.
Oh, Matt, we found some good ones. It's just been. I mean, you could go through the interview I mean, you told me you weren't sure about him before he came in. Not true. Not
right.
true. That was a lie. Sorry. Yeah, we just wanted
I hear
Laura
that
around.
every
Yeah,
day.
yeah.
That's fine.
And he's okay with that.
Yeah, I'm good with
He's
that.
okay
And
with
she
that.
can articulate the
Well,
words better
Laura,
than me. So.
to
Half of
affirm
these
you.
are your words just from quiet.
Oh yeah. When Josh speaks, pay attention.
Uh-huh.
I wish I had that superpower, that ability to not.
I wish I had that superpower.
Yeah, you and me, we'll pray for our sanctification. But you were talking about your sanctification journey. None of us, we're all in process. None of us are done yet. But both of you, what I've heard from people at Cadillac is how much they love both of you, and how much people appreciate Josh. And I'm watching you give your yes whenever we give you a microphone
Yeah.
and say, hey, you got to get on the platform and speak. And he's like, okay, got a microphone, da, 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 da. But wanting to like do all the things, you know, the first time I heard you speak into a microphone was at Camp Living Waters.
Yep.
And when you're yourself and that campus becoming, or those relationships grow deeper,
Yep.
you know, you see, like the last time I was there, it's like, I love when I go to a campus and they're like, oh, they see me and they're like, you know, I'm not preaching that weekend, but I'm in Cadillac or Manistee, and they're like, oh, you're shorter in real life. But who they really want to talk to is you, or who they really want to talk to is your partner in crime, Adam, or they want to talk to Jamie, or they want to talk to Laura, or why you would want to talk to Haley, I have no idea, but just kidding. But for you, Laura, my wife was deeply impressed with you, not just the MC, but I think you got to be in a small group together. And so there's a wisdom beyond your years. As Martin wrote in our notes here, they have lived many lives for age 34, which actually you said that's something that you came up with. Yeah. But the life that you're living before God and before your church family is admired, and now you have a third. So there's 3. Let's just give all their names, and just in case they're listening to this in 20 years and they're like, you didn't even mention me, Mom. Yeah.
Our oldest is Addie Jo.
Yeah.
And then we have our second is Weston, and our third is Colton.
And ages right now are?
Right now, 6.5, about to turn 5, and just turned 2.
Oh, my days. I lived that life, bro. I saw a meme yesterday that said, I would rather eat a jean jacket than to have to put a car seat or change a car seat from one car to another.
Yep.
Isn't that just the
3 times
as a
a day?
grandparent, I'm reliving that right now.
Yep.
So you are in diapers, pull-ups, juice cups. Are there still passies in the house?
Nope.
No cooking. No passies. We're
those.
done with that.
Yep. Just diapers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if your car was like our car at that stage, and again with grandkids, you can find an entire meal somewhere in the floorboards and somewhere in the back seats. It's just part of life, man.
Yep.
It's just part of the thing. But it goes fast. So old guy sitting here going, it goes fast.
Yeah.
So
Already has gone fast.
Yeah, you just got to hang on to that, you know, or whatever. In the during the interview process, when you guys were first coming on staff, there was a moment when you were staying in a camper at the Ray's residence, and there were some late night euchre parties, is what I heard. Who was winning that whole euchre fest? I need something on Adam Ray.
I'm pretty sure Adam and I were winning that.
Oh, it was late. It was boys against the girls.
Rachel and I are wonderful wives, and sometimes they just really need to feel good.
Oh, wow. I thought you were going to say you're wonderful wives and they cheat.
No, I'm pretty sure we won.
Not the case.
Yeah.
We'll just have to do a rematch sometime and confirm.
Okay, you heard it here first. There's a euchre rematch. Did we leave anything out? Is there anything else that you would just love the Tab family to know about, either about Cadillac or where you're at, or something from your journey that we kind of left out?
No, I feel like,
so.
I mean,
maybe I'm sure
there's way more
Well, we'll do a part 2 if we have to.
in-depth stuff that we could go into, but yeah, I don't think there's anything that we...
Yeah. Just 2 very imperfect people winging it and trying to say yes to the right things. And yeah, again, I hope that when we're no longer here, like that's the goal, right? With our kids are our primary ministry right now. And it's like, that's at least you're out doing ministry outside of the home. My ministry is inside the home. And both of us, like, we just want people to have strong foundations because they're going to have their own version of what we've been walking, and that they fall back on that, and that Christ is what's remembered, not like,
That's
Josh
awesome.
and Laura.
Cool.
Yeah.
Does your family like to stop at Chick-fil-A?
Yes.
We have not done a Chick-fil-A shout out in a while. I'm calling out Chick-fil-A because I recently was there for a birthday fest, and there's some decent ice cream options, but it was like cookies and cream, vanilla, chocolate. I can get that anywhere. Peach shakes, bring them back. Bring them back. That's biblical. Peach shakes or nothing. We're
told
just
me to get
saying
one
it.
last time I was on, and I still haven't got one of those.
You haven't got a peach shake?
Mm-mm.
Do you like peach? Bro.
See, I'm not kind of the opposite.
It's
I'm kind of boring where cookies and cream kind of sounds good.
Cookies and cream is delicious.
So,
but I'm just saying what sticks out, right? I'm sure you have a Yukon River knife.
Oh, yeah.
You do.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us why you love this knife.
Well, I gutted 18 deer with it last year, and it still has the same edge on it.
Still sharp.
It's still sharp. Still
Which
going
one
up.
do you have? You remember what it's called? Do you have the small one?
No.
Or do you have the Hunter?
Yeah, I have the Hunter.
Me too. I
Yep.
got the Hunter. I only gutted 2 deer with that.
Yep.
But that's because I don't poach. So
Not all 18 of them, right?
Yeah, no,
I was gutting them for
You're
climbing,
managing
yeah.
properties, yeah. So Tab family, if you order a Yukon River knife or you want a Yukon River knife, yukonriverknives.org, and proceeds from that support Alaskan Inland Missions, which you'll hear it here first. I'll get in trouble for it later. This is what I do. There may or may not be some sort of missions trip to support Alaskan Inland Missions in the near future from the Tab.
Yep.
I heard that for the first time last night at small group, and I was like, bro, it's going to be worse than a men's retreat with the numbers of dudes that want to go and are gone. And so I don't know if we have to support that. I mean, we might have to keep it on the down low because I heard your buddy Adam Sharp, our buddy, sorry, he's trying to angle to be a part of that. But there's also one very important announcement. The Dublin General Store finally was able to get brats to the Buckley campus because there was no Britton Bishop and there was no Seth Bush in the chain. And so it had to be hand delivered outside the staff ranks, and it came straight to my home, and we had them on Tuesday.
We did.
Yeah,
it was great.
We had
She saw your picture of that, and she was. It's like, you didn't bring me any?
I mean,
the two.
I mean, there were burgers there too, which were great.
Yep.
But the jalapeno brat, I didn't have the apple bacon.
Oh, it was delicious. Those are my two favorite. Because we used to
got 'em both?
Living Waters is only
20
10, 15 minutes from there. And it's like,
That's why I brought it up. I'd never heard of
Yep.
Dublin General Store until I spoke to you because I was looking for some snacks.
yep.
And you're
Yeah,
like, you
we
never
just-
heard of Dublin General Store? Go there. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
We've gone to nowhere and then further into the woods, as Laura said. And you were like, no, just go here, just go out to camp, take a left, there it is. And I went into meat heaven. I went into meat. So Dublin General Store is in the middle of nowhere, but they support this podcast along with Trace Cakes. Have you had Trace Cakes?
Mm-mm.
Okay, it's time. Yeah, it's
I'm
time.
in.
Check out some Trace Cakes. Take your women's group on a little let's make cakes with Trace together.
There you go.
And she's also known as Bass Cakes because she plays bass in the band. So,
You've met her.
I've met her. I just haven't had her.
oh my days.
Tracy.
Matt, are you still on the Trace Cakes ban? No, you'd have a Trace Cake. In moderation. The man's all about moderation. The man is a picture of discipline. So moderation in moderation? Yeah, he's a good man. He's looking fit. Matty Latz, Lord Matthew Corey Hughes. Thank you, Matt, for putting up with us today. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Josh, for being on the podcast. It wasn't as bad as you thought it was going to be, right?
I mean, hopefully.
I knew you would be fine because similar personalities. Once you start talking, you just forget.
Yep.
Matt's over here going like, wrap it up, buddy. And I'm still talking. So anyways, Tab family, please share this now. Now you've heard the stories of Josh and Laura Boulis. Josh is a campus pastor at our Cadillac campus, and Laura is first ministry, is her children, but highly involved with all of these different things. And we love each of you individually, and we love the energy you bring to our staff family. So thanks for saying yes, not only be on the podcast, but continuing to give God your yes. We might have to title this something having to do with Anchorpoint. So until next time, this is Laura, Josh, Lord, Matthew, Corey, Hughes, and me, John. We're signing off.